Hello everybody, Kieran here with Explorminate, and welcome to not episode 2 of this video series. This is going to be a little bit of a feature of Gladius Relics of War. I'm going to dive into what makes each of the four races a little different. Now, I think as I talked about with the first video, if I remember right, when I was kind of doing an overview, we don't yet have anything. I don't have access to it. I don't know of anybody outside of the developers having access to anyone beyond the Space Marines. So, there is the endgame compendium, which actually does have some information about the different races or factions. Um, so it will be cool to look at that a little bit. I wanted to start off with Space Marines though, because that's who we're going to be playing as for this series. So as we know, they're limited to one main city where they can drop these fortresses anywhere for resources, added defense, I mean, you name it, right? And we've seen a little bit of the tech tree here. We've got our armory to make us available to make scout bikes, the reclusium to recruit heroes, which we'll get into with for future videos. And as we go down here, one thing that's going to make this Space Marines unique, which I'm excited to get to play with, is the orbital deployment. Now there's a few different things on here. You've got obviously orbital deployment, which if I remember reading the tooltip right somewhere when I was playing, I think it cost about 50 influence to orbitally deploy someone. But if you think about it, that's a couple turns of influence, and if I make a building, that could be maybe 2 or 3 turns of influence. And I could be dropping pretty powerful units at the front lines, or at least units, right? Um, let's come here. Where was it? Not Terminators. Okay. The Storm Raven gunship is another option we're going to have. Quick deployed heavy airborne transport ship, which would be cool. The Teleporter Homer allows Terminators to teleport to adjacent tactical Space Marines. I think that might allow for to get some Terminators up, which are pretty tough guys. And then there's the Locator Beacon that causes orbital deployment to not consume action points when deploying adjacent to scout bikes or Storm Raven gunships. So that is really cool too, because from what it seems like, again, we're not there yet. When you're going to orbital drop someone, it's going to use their action, so they're not going to get to retaliate, but they are going to be dropped at the front line, hopefully anywhere on the map that you have vision. I feel like you should be able to do that. Locator beacon, though, if you have a scout bike out there or a gunship, boom, you drop them, they're riding the action. So that's pretty cool. Let's jump over to the Compendium, though. Talk a little bit more about the Space Marines here. So we've got the factions here. Good old Space Marines. So it does talk about food and ore, one resource. I don't understand how this is going to work. And I think that's one thing that probably streamlines the Space Marines economy, if I had to guess. But I don't really know without playing the other races. Fortresses of Redemptions, we know. We haven't really messed with the operations or tactics. But, there we have the Space Marines. Let's jump over to the Orks, though. I think there's some interesting things here. So we're not going to cover the lore aspect of each race. We're going to talk about kind of the gameplay implications here. So their initial challenge is medium, which doesn't mean they're at a disadvantage. I assume that means, from what I've read here, it takes a little bit more effort to get that synergy going. But once it does, I'm sure you've got that green horde flowing. So let's go through these abilities. First we have Might Makes Right. So Orc units increase influence by doing damage, but have an influence upkeep. So while our Space Marines do cost requisitions, the Orcs are going to cost upkeep to keep going, which is really interesting. I didn't expect that. Then when we combine that with WOG, Orc units gain bonus damage when influence is high, so you have to use it for upkeep, and they do more damage. I don't know what that is going to be. Is that a 25% bonus? Is that a 50% bonus? How significant will be that? And then you suffer a penalty when influence is low. So you're going to have to kind of decide, do we want to green horde them and make our guys do less damage, or a little bit of a leaner, meaner fighting machine, I guess, and they do more damage. That'll be interesting to see. Scavengers, Orc units salvage ore by killing units. Again, don't really know how that plays into part, but it's interesting they don't collect it. And then it looks like Green Tide and Orchid Fungus. These are both bonuses to city growth and healing. Um, and then Mob Rule, Orc Infantry lose less morale, but take damage when losing morale. So that's interesting. And then they deal bonus melee damage when attacking. So kind of an interesting take. I'm excited to see how Orcs play. I have seen a few of their ships in other videos, and I can confirm there is the flying gunship bomber thing. I've seen that floating around among other units, and hopefully we'll run into one of those later in the game if we can find some orcs here. But yeah, so that will be really cool to play them. Very, very different than I would have imagined putting orcs together, but it's nice to see them looking outside of what I might have considered or expected. So neutral, they're just like the dumb dogs running around and stuff. They don't have any traits, which is fine. Necrons, though, deathless metal, not to be confused with death metal. Um, they arise, so they can only found cities atop Necron tombs. I don't know if we found a Necron tomb. It's a tile, just like that's a savanna and that's a rock grasslands. It's a tile you'll find. So that means they will have multiple cities, unlike the Space Marines, but they are limited where they can place them. Necrodemus repair. Necron units can spend influence to repair in the field. That's kind of cool. I like that use of influence, and that kind of makes sense from a lore standpoint, I think. You could really use that to turn the tide, especially if you can do that with heroes. That would be insane, I think, because heroes really can get quite potent, especially with some good items. Dimensional Corridor, Necron infantry units can spend influence to teleport to Eternity Gates. No idea what an Eternity Gate is, but it's interesting that you are limited to infantry units, not other units. I'm a little skeptical of that. I don't know. Maybe that will be cool enough. I wonder if sometimes I'll be like, man, I want to send this cool Necron this or that through. I don't know a ton about Necrons, I guess. This Walker, this Death something or another. But at least you can get infantry around quick, which is pretty cool. Necrons do sleeping units. They spend energy to produce units and ore for unit upkeep. So that's interesting. I wonder what the upkeep penalty is, but there's ore coming into the picture again, except we're going to be using it for upkeep here. So yeah, the more I read about this, I'm like, what in the world? Ore is going to be important. It's kind of nice to see a strategic resource like that. I hope there might be more than just ore, but I mean, if that's all there is, that's all there is, I suppose. But it's also cool where you're spending energy for production also. And then, oh, here's another influence thing. They spend influence to rush production. So you're really going to have to choose there. Do you heal? Do you do you heal your units, teleport units, or rush your units? And they do not require food. Their population consumes ore. I think that ties in with the upkeep. So there we have it. Yeah, that's quite different. Okay, and then the Astra Militarium, I'm just going to refer to them as Imperial Guard because that's what I know them as. They don't really seem to have, they don't seem complete yet, which makes sense. Like, this game is still in beta. It's obviously fun to play because that's why I'm making these videos, but like, I don't think they're probably the least close to completion, I would guess, just from what I see here. I don't know. It's really hard to judge because from what I've played, I don't know if I've seen the computer utilize these abilities necessarily. I don't know if I've played far enough to see like warp gates or anything, but they just, they construct fortifications. That seems to go along with it, right? Tons of guns and walls and throw people at the problem, for lack of a better term, I guess. They just, they're not the elite Space Marines there, though. We're going to outnumber them and outshoot them, so. And then City Edicts are temporary active citywide bonuses. That's kind of cool. Where the Space Marines, they are unit bonuses. It's cool that this will be more Empire bonus. So I'm guessing with that citywide bonuses, they're going to have more than one city. I would hope so. I don't know. I don't want there to be more than one race that has one city is what I guess I'm saying. But I'm also not developing the game, and I don't know the full picture, I guess. But That would be my hope. I would think they would play really fun with defending multiple lines and things like that. Make trenches or something. Who knows? That'll be cool. But so there we have it. That's what we have. I know it's not maybe a ton. It's obviously not gameplay, but I was going through this, reading up the other night, and I was like, whoa, they actually have stuff. So you kind of have an idea how these play because you can't select that in the main menu. So I thought we were just all in the dark, but there's a little information in case you're curious. You know, like, oh, what are the Orks and the Necrons going to do? Because that's not a lot for the Imperial Guard. But there's something, I guess. And I thought that might be kind of fun to share because if you're like me, when games are coming out that I am following, I'm just like, man, I want all the news and information I can because part of me just wants to know if I should get hyped for it or not. And the other part of me is also just like, I want to know what's in this game because I already am hyped. So, but that's that. We'll leave it there. Don't want to belabor the point. There is a quick and easy race overview of the Space Marines, the Necrons, the Orks, and the Imperial Guard. So rest assured, I'll do at least little feature videos once those become released as the build continues to develop. We've been given by the developers. So, but until then, there's a little information, and make sure to check back tomorrow for more Space Marine madness. It's going to be good. So, thanks for watching. I'll catch you next time.